Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're unpacking a really common, honestly frustrating reality: why making a high salary doesn't automatically mean you're wealthy. We're going to look at the invisible forces that are quietly draining our bank accounts, and more importantly, how we can actually fix them.
Okay, let's just dive right into this. You work hard, you make decent money, maybe you've even snagged a few promotions over the years. But somehow, without fail, by the 22nd of the month, your bank account is a complete ghost town. And the crazy part? You haven't bought anything extravagant. No luxury vacations, no sports cars, but the money is just gone. Today, we're going to expose exactly why that loop keeps repeating itself.
To figure this out, we're following this roadmap. First, the hard work myth. Second, systemic wealth traps. Third, the psychology of scarcity. Fourth, invisible money leaks. And finally, breaking the cycle.
So right off the bat, we have to establish the massive difference between income and net worth. Income is just a flow of money coming in. It's what you earn. Net worth, on the other hand, is what actually sticks around after all your decisions. It's your assets minus your liabilities. We're so quick to equate a high salary with being rich, but income only gives you the ability to build wealth. It's the gap between what you earn and what you spend that's the real game changer.
All right, let's get into section 1, the hard work myth, and why effort alone just isn't enough.
We are basically conditioned from birth to believe that hard work equals wealth, right? But as Harvard researcher Laura Hang points out, relying only on effort leaves you completely vulnerable. You can literally take two people who work equally hard and one will soar while the other just kind of stays stuck. Why? Because the system is deeply imperfect. Career and financial success aren't neatly tied to how much you sweat. To really succeed, you have to find your edge and pair that hard work with intentional strategy.
Which brings us to section 2, systemic wealth traps, and the invisible economic forces actively working against us.
Look, I really want to validate your frustration here because it is objectively harder to build wealth today. You're up against some massive macroeconomic headwinds. First, there's a historic decoupling of wages from productivity. You are producing way more, but that value isn't hitting your paycheck like it used to. Then we've got structural inflation. Data from the OECD shows consumer prices are roughly 35% higher in early 2026 than they were in 2019. That's a permanent upward shift in your baseline cost of living. Add to that the silent erosion of the middle class, where essentials, like housing, now eat up a third of your disposable income.
And this brings up one of my favorite concepts, the boots theory, coined by fantasy author Terry Pratchett. It highlights a brutal economic truth. It is incredibly expensive to be broke. Think about it. A wealthy person can drop $50 on a good pair of boots that last 10 years. Someone without a financial buffer has to buy $10 cardboard boots that literally leak after one season. Over a decade, the person with less money spends $100 on cheap boots and, at the end of the day, still has wet feet. When you lack margin, you're forced into reactive, short-term decisions that end up costing you way more in the long run.
Now let's look at how those external pressures literally rewire our brains. Section 3, the psychology of scarcity and the cognitive tax. When you feel perpetually broke, it actually creates an invisible cognitive tax on your brain. Harvard and Princeton researchers call this the scarcity mindset. Basically, experiencing a lack of resources completely exhausts your mental energy. It forces your brain to tunnel its vision, focusing entirely on just surviving today rather than planning for tomorrow. When you're financially stressed, you aren't making bad decisions because you aren't smart. You're making bad decisions because your cognitive bandwidth is totally maxed out. Now consider the number 13. This stat is wild. Research shows that the cognitive drop from severe financial stress is equivalent to losing 13 IQ points. Let that sink in. That is literally the exact same mental impairment as losing a full night's sleep. It becomes almost impossible to budget, plan, or make any kind of rational long-term choice when your brain is operating under that level of pressure. This cognitive tax is so powerful that major institutions are actually changing how they operate because of it. Take the New South Wales government in Australia, for example. They actively use these behavioral insights to redesign their public programs. They simplify forms and default people into good choices specifically to avoid burdening citizens whose mental bandwidth is already taxed by financial scarcity. And that exhausted, completely dysregulated nervous system leads us straight into Section 4, invisible money leaks, and where your money actually goes. When your nervous system is stressed, your self-control absolutely tanks. Financial anxiety doesn't magically make you want to save. It actually makes your brain crave a quick hit of dopamine just to feel better. This is why the average American drops around $3,300 a year on stress-driven impulse buys. That $6 latte or that midnight Amazon order, that's not a lack of willpower. That's your body's attempt to self-soothe a stressed-out nervous system.
But beyond emotional spending, a shocking 15 to 25% of your income is probably quietly bleeding out through 4 invisible killers. You've got subscription creep, all those forgotten free trials and app renewals, the convenience tax, like delivery fees and quick ride shares that slowly drain your account. There's the phantom miscellaneous category, where thousands of dollars go totally unaccounted for. But the absolute biggest trap? Lifestyle inflation, also known as lifestyle creep. Every time you get a raise, your standard of living subtly rises right alongside it. It feels like a well-deserved reward, but it actually guarantees your wealth never grows because you are constantly raising the ceiling. So you combine a dysregulated nervous system with these invisible leaks, and what do you get? The 3 slices of the paycheck to paycheck loop. First, zero buffer, meaning every single dollar is spoken for before the check even clears. Second, reactive spending. Your car breaks down, you have no margin, so you put it on a credit card. And third, no system. You're managing your money based purely on memory and vibes, rather than an actual structure. This loop right here is exactly why earning more money doesn't automatically solve your money problems. So, how do we actually escape this trap? Let's move to our final segment, Section 5, Breaking the Cycle and Reclaiming Your Finances. Here is the harsh truth. You literally cannot out-earn a broken system. To fix this, you need what's called the breathing room strategy. The entire goal is to intentionally create a gap between what you make and what you spend. Step 1, stabilize before you optimize. Don't try to change your whole life overnight, just find and plug one leak first. Step 2, name the buffer before you spend. The second you get paid, move a small amount, even just $20, into a separate account before you do literally anything else. And step 3, treat irregular expenses, like car registration or holiday gifts, as regular monthly bills by dividing that annual cost by 12. But to find that one leak to plug, you gotta rip off the Band-Aid and look at reality. You need to do a 30-minute money audit. Pull up your banking app today and sort your last 30 days of actual spending into these 6 buckets. Not what you think you spent, but what actually left your account. The difference between those 2 numbers, that's your awareness gap. Closing that gap is the absolute first step toward taking your power back. The absolute biggest takeaway from this explainer is that simply making more money isn't going to magically save you. You have to understand the macroeconomic forces you're up against, calm your financial stress response to stop the impulse spending, and intentionally widen the gap between your income and your expenses. Gaining control over the money you have right now is the only real way to build lasting wealth. I'll leave you with this one final thought to chew on. Think about your paycheck right now. Income only gives you the ability to buy things, but it's your discipline, your awareness, and your systems that will ultimately turn that income into actual freedom. So, what is one money leak you can plug today to start widening your gap? Thanks for hanging out with us on The Explainer.